So good morning to once again all of you. Last lecture what we have seen is the factor of safety, and related to that factor of safety, what are the various points which are governing to that factor of safety that we have seen. And now next point which we are going to start is the theories of failure. Now, before going to these theories of failure, first of all we should know what is the failure. Failure which is occurring in the material. Any material, if you are going to take example of any material, then what is the exact failure means, that one should understand. Once you understand this, and then afterwards we can go further and we can have the various theories which are available uh, and which are based on what we can say practical as well as theoretical expression. All these theories of failure we are going to compare with some practical results, and then afterwards we are going to decide that which theory is suitable for which type of material. If you are remembering, I have told you that there are broadly, if you are going to classify, then there are two different types of materials. So can anybody of you tell me what are that types, or you can comment in comment section. Yes. Anybody of you?
Ductile and brittle.
Ductile and brittle material, right? So basically, when we are going to consider these type of two different types of material, broadly they are classified as ductile and brittle material. And all metallic as well as non-metallic, ferrous, non-ferrous, all the materials which are available on this planet Earth, even in the universe, we can say, they can be categorized in these two groups. That is, either it will be brittle or it will be ductile. So there are two different ways by means of which the failure is occurring in these two types of material. Now, the picture which I have shown here, that picture is indicating failure of a material. Now, by your experience or by observing this picture, we can say that the failure has occurred. That means that bar which has been placed, that has two different parts, right? So it has broken into two parts. And this type of failure is occurring in case of ductile material. And if you see the second picture, in which we can say the failure has occurred, and that specimen which has used for the testing, that has again converted into two different pieces. So what exactly difference you can observe in these two pictures? Can you comment on this? Whether you find any difference in between these two pictures?
Yes, sir.
So can you just tell me what are that, what difference you are going to find in these two pictures?
Brittle material have less, very less and negligible elastic and plastic point. They breaks easily.
Mm-hmm.
In case of ductile material, they absorb some amount of elastic and plastic forces or minimum.
Right. Rakesh, you want to say something, that is neck formation. Will you please unmute yourself and you explain it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, in ductile material, their neck formation takes place while the failure.
Uh-huh.
in brittle material, there is no any yielding takes place.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rakesh has explained it in very well manner, because we should know some background related to this material properties, which you might have studied in your strength of material subject, or what we are going to call it as a physics also. You might have studied these types of material or behavior of the material under the application of force. Also, you have studied Hooke's law, that is, you are knowing what is Young's modulus, as well as you have studied your Mohs circle also. So principal stress and principal strain you have studied. So by knowing all this background, we should move further, and hope that you are having these prerequisites which you are already completed in your AME subject, analysis of mechanical elements, right? So in that subject you have studied that there are two different types of material, and in case of ductile material the neck formation take place, as Rakesh has explained. Also, as Rishikesh has explained it, that neck that deformation take place. That deformation, that is nothing but where the material get flow from elastic module to the plastic module. That is here in the I'll take pen. Here in case of first picture you can see the diameter of this rod has changed from this bigger diameter to this smaller diameter. Okay, and it has not regained. Here also in second piece you can see the normal diameter of this piece which you want to test in simple tension test has been changed from bigger to smaller, and it has not regained once again. So what it informs us that elongation has taken place in that material, and first of all we observe that elongation starts and later on you goes on increasing force, then the failure occurs. And this neck which has been formed here, it is called as neck formation. So neck formation, this cup has also formed here. This type of failure observes in ductile material. This what we can say cup has formed here, and this is again we can say the failure regions has occurred. And in case of ductile material, suddenly failure is not going to occur. That means what you are going to call as a failure, that is again question. But that part doesn't break into two different pieces suddenly. But before that, it goes in plastic stage, right? And where the point which we are going to say that from elasticity to plasticity that material is moving, that point you are going to call as a yield point on stress strain diagram. We are going to see next that stress strain diagram, but here you can see the difference. So neck has been formed, and in case of brittle material we didn't find any neck formation. You can observe here this diameter is constant throughout the section, right? So here also where the failure has taken place, that part also has the same diameter as you are going to find it at this place. And in the second piece also same case. It means that we didn't observe any neck formation or that plastic deformation of this type of materials. So these are more dangerous failure, because here at least we can get the idea that the material is about to fail or going in failure region, and it gives us prior intimation by forming the neck. But here it doesn't give any idea that material whether it is going to get fail or not. Okay, and directly it is going to break into two different parts. So in case of normal ductile material, what we are going to say that the failure is going to occur when the neck formation starts. This failure, though it is not completely divided into two different parts, two pieces, then also we are going to call that once that plasticity starts, we are going to say it as a failure of that material. Okay. And here in case of this ductile material, this plane can be directly observed, that is at 45 degree, that you are going to call as a plane of principal stress. And in case of brittle material, it is a 0 degree horizontal one, and failure is occurring. So at molecular level, if you see the failure which is occurring in these two different materials, then we can see here in case of ductile material, these molecules are failed at 45 degree to the horizontal. Getting that means the shearing is taking place at 45 degree in case of ductile material. Before that, they are going to have the flow, and that is called as entering in the plastic region. Okay. And here in case of that brittle material, the plane of failure is actually normal. Okay, that is nothing but it is a horizontal plane by considering that force is applied in vertical direction. Getting me? So this type of failure is occurring, or this part is converted into two different pieces in case of brittle material. Okay, so next point which we are going to see is this stress strain curve. Here, as we have used this SUT, SU and SY, instead of that we can say sigma Y also, because here it is written. The material strain parameters are yield stress, okay, that is denoted by sigma suffix Y or S suffix Y, meaning is the same, okay. That is yield stress, and ultimate stress, which is denoted by sigma U or S suffix U. So if you are going to use different authors' books, then you will find these two different nomenclature. Even though sometimes they are going to add T also. This sigma Y T. T is nothing but the yield strength. Okay. SUT, ultimate strength or ultimate stress. So when we are going to observe this ductile material failure and this stress strain curve, based on this stress strain curve, again we can calculate Young's modulus also, because this Young's modulus is nothing but the stress divided by strain, right? So that can be calculated in the both the cases, that is for the ductile as well as for brittle material. We'll concentrate on this ductile material first, and later on we'll go to the brittle material. But before that, just understand that yield stress, which you are going to denote by sigma suffix Y, can be denoted by S suffix Y. Out of these two, we'll use sigma Y for the next study. And this ultimate stress is denoted by sigma suffix U or S suffix U. Okay. Now, here you can see, if you are going to concentrate on this ductile material curve, then up to this point where we are going to call it as a yielding start, that you are going to call as a yield point, okay, and which is denoted by SY, also it is denoted by sigma Y. Okay. So at this point or till this point, we can say this slope is near about constant at any point. That is, stress is proportional to the strain, right? Wherever we are going to say they are proportional to each other, inversely proportional to each other. As the stress increases, strain and stress are proportional, not inversely, but they are proportional to each other. Okay, so as the stress increases, strain also get increases up to this yield point. And after this yield point, what happens? You can see that near about for this region, that is, I'll take this point here and this point here. So this strain, which we are denoting by epsilon, we'll say as a 1, and here we'll say this as a epsilon 2. The strain has increased, but you can see here the stress has normally or somewhat remains constant. What it means? It means that stress has not increased. Though you are going to increase the load, which has simply, we can say here, we are going to use this specimen under the tensile test. That is, you have applied force in this direction as well as in upward direction, and you are observing that what is happening to this specimen when we are applying load in upward and downward direction. Okay, this P is applied. Now, when we are going to increase load, we know that stress is nothing but the force upon area. But though you are increasing force, area, whether it is remaining constant or not, we don't know, but stress is remaining constant. What it means? If sigma is equal to P by A, and if you increase this P from 10 to 12, then also this sigma is going to remain constant. What it means?
Why, sir?
See how why that we'll see later on, but what it
No,
means?
sir. What I am asking?
What? Okay. Stress is equal to force divided by area. Okay. Am
Yes,
I right?
sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now force which has applied is 10 and area at that time is 2. So what will be the stress?
5.
5. And in case when this force is going to become from 10 to 12, then also the value of stress is remaining as 5 only. So what it means? Though the force has increased from 10 to 12, or simply for simple calculation, we can say from 10, it has been shifted to 15. But stress has remained as a 5. What it means?
But sir, both are directly proportional to each other.
It has to be increased, but it has not increased. What it means? What will happen to the A? If P has increased from 10 to 15, initial value is 10, okay, stress value is 5. When P was 10, at that time, area was, how much I have told you? 2.
2.
Yes. And when it has become 15, then what happens to area? To keep this as a 5, what will be A?
3, sir.
3. It means that area has increased.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that force carrying area has increased, you want to say? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So whether it happens in case of ductile material, whether that area is increasing or decreasing, what happens?
Decreasing, sir.
It is decreasing, neck has formed, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this phenomenon doesn't, what we can say, mathematically we get the wrong answer. Area has to be decreased. Though we are increasing force, stress is not increasing. It means that area has to be decreased. Okay, or it actually practically that area has decreased. But what it means that the material is allowing to deform. Initially, up to this point, that material is not ready to elongate. This red part, I will take different color. Up to this point, this material is not allowing to deform, and though it gets deformed, it will regain its shape. And that's why stress has increased. Okay, but once that material get allowed to flow, stress is not increased, but strain has increased lot many. But that strain which has increased, that is permanently increased, and that permanent deformation has taken place here. After that, though you are going to decrease force, the material will not regain its shape. Okay, it will be remain as a change in shape. Length will get increased. Okay, and later on again, this stress has increased by some value. Okay, very little value you can say, but it has increased. And this increased stress, that is means again after formation of neck, again this material is not ready to form a plastic deformation. But that plastic deformation gets started and it gets formed. And at this point where the stress is maximum, this failure start, that is breaking starts, and this material gets break by releasing the stress. I will analog this type of condition to some practical example. एक्झामच्या अगोदर, तुमचा पेपर असतो त्याच्या अगोदर आपण पण खूप स्ट्रेस येतो ना, स्ट्रेस येतो आपल्यावर. एम आय राईट?
Yes, sir.
कशामुळे येतो? कारण ती एक्झाम द्यायची, आपण स्ट्रेस घेतो, लोड वाढतो आपल्यावर अभ्यासाचा. ओके, आपल्या बुद्धीवर लोड वाढतो अभ्यासाचा, आणि इतर जे रुटीन वर्क असते आपले ते होत नाहीत, जसं की खेळणं किंवा फिरायला जाणं, पिक्चर बघणं, मोबाईल बघणं, तुमच्या आवडत्या सिरियल बघणं, ओके, सिरीज बघणं, हे थांबतं. त्यामुळे बुद्धीवर लोड येतो, स्ट्रेस वाढतो अभ्यासाचा. पण एकदा तुम्ही ठरवलं की तो पेपरच द्यायचा नाही, म्हणजे होऊ दे, पास होऊ दे नाही तर नापास होऊ दे, मला जेवढं येतं तेवढंच मी लिहिणार. तसं ते मटेरियल काय म्हणतं की काय, आता मी त्या फोर्सला बाहेरनं रेजिस्टन्स, जो फोर्स आहे त्याला मी काय रेजिस्टन्स करणार नाही, होऊ दे, ते प्लॅस्टिक डिफॉर्मेशन होऊ दे. ओके, ते प्लॅस्टिक डिफॉर्मेशन झालं की स्ट्रेस रिलीज होतो, म्हणजे स्ट्रेस वाढत नाही. तुम्ही काय थोडा अभ्यास केला आणि त्यावेळेला तुम्ही ठरवलं आता उद्या पेपरला जायचं आहे, संध्याकाळी तुम्ही ठरवताय उद्या काय होईल ते होऊ दे, पास होईल किंवा नापास होईल, मार्क किती पडायचे तेवढी पडू दे. स्ट्रेस थोडासा रिलीज झाला. स्ट्रेस रिलीज झाल्यानंतर पुन्हा पेपरला जाताना थोडासा किंचित स्ट्रेस असतोच. ओके, आणि एकदा पेपर झाला, ओके, मटेरियल हॅज फेल्ड. फेल्ड मीन्स यू कॅन से एक्झाम हॅज ओव्हर. नाउ लेट अस वेट अप टू रिझल्ट. रिझल्टच्या वेळेला बघायला काय होईल ते होईल. त्यामुळे मटेरियल एकदा फेल झालं की सडनली स्ट्रेस झिरो होतो. त्यावेळेस स्ट्रेन म्हणू शकतो आपण की दोन पार्ट मध्ये त्या मटेरियलचं जर डिवायडेशन झालं तर त्यांचा इप्सिलॉन किती होतोय, चेंज इन लेंथ डीएल पाहिजे तेवढा होऊ शकतो, इन्फायनाइट पण होऊ शकतो ना. ते दोन पीसेस ज्या वेळेला आपण एकमेकापासून लांब नेऊ तेवढं, किती पण लांब नेऊ तेवढं डीएल आहे त्यांचा, चेंज इन लेंथ. एम आय राईट? पण त्यावेळेला स्ट्रेस शून्य आहे, म्हणजे ते मटेरियल दोन पार्ट मध्ये डिवाइड झालं. ओके, सो ह्या केसमध्ये हे दोनच पॉइंट खूप इम्पॉर्टंट आहेत. दॅट इज नथिंग बट द सिग्मा वाय, दॅट इज यील्ड पॉइंट आणि अल्टिमेट पॉइंट. ओके, ह्या दोन पॉइंट for ductile material are important. So ह्या केसमध्ये here designers has decided that for the ductile material, once that yield starts or stress reaches up to yield point, we'll say that the failure has started or that material has get failed, though physically it has not converted into two different pieces. म्हणजे डक्टाईल मटेरियल मध्ये दोन डिफरंट पीस जरी तयार झाले नसतील पण यील्ड स्टार्ट झालं तर तिथं त्या मटेरियलला फेल्युअर समजलं जातं. बट इन केस ऑफ ब्रिटल मटेरियल, नाउ विल सी दिस सेकंड पॉइंट or second graph. In case of this second graph, okay, in case of second graph, which is for the brittle material, the stress get increased as you increase the load. But we didn't observe any sort of deformation in the material. But what we observe is directly two pieces without giving any intimation, without giving any neck formation, without giving any plastic region. So as we have observed in case of this ductile material, as this region as a elastic region, this region as a plastic region, and this as a failure region. But in case of this brittle material, after elastic region, there is failure region. We don't observe any sort of plastic region. Plastic deformation doesn't take place in case of this brittle material. Okay. Example already we have seen that the example of rubber. If you apply load on rubber, it gets elongated. When you are releasing that rubber, then it is regaining its original shape, right? But if you increase load more and more, it converted into two different pieces. In case of rubber, okay, rubber band we are talking about, not eraser. And in case of this chalk, writing chalk, if you apply load without giving any elongation, it converted into two different pieces. Am I right? So these are two important graphs. Let me tell you one thing, these graphs will be helpful to you till the end of your life as an engineer. As an engineer, I have to say. Till you are working in engineering field, you will help these two graphs. If you are able to explain these two graphs in well manner, definitely that will be helpful to you in appearing for the any interview or any company. Okay, as well as these are important from GATE point of view also and from any competitive exam point of view. So you understand these two graphs in better manner, that will be helpful to you to prepare for three different subjects like strength of material, then applied mechanics, then design, that is design group includes all the subjects of design, that is design 1, machine design 1, machine design 2, as well as theory of machine also. Some sort of these graphs are important for from kinetic point of view, where you are going to study motion as well as force. So these graphs are helpful in for your future. If you have any doubt, you are free to ask related to this graph. Hello? You can write comment. Any doubt?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Now we'll move further and we will say these theories of failure. In case of theories of failure, why this theories of failure has occurred basically, that we will see. In case of any loading condition, as we are going to say, when the material gets failed, okay, failure occurs. At that time, we can say that the material which is getting failed is nothing but is converting into two different pieces, right? That you are going to say as a failure. Or in case of ductile material, the yielding is going to start. Definitely, when the failure is going to occur, at that time, it is the what we can say product of applied load. राईट, म्हणजे जोपर्यंत तुम्ही लोड अप्लाय करत नाही तोपर्यंत फेल्युअर होणारच नाही. आणि लोड अप्लाय केला दॅट इज नथिंग बट दॅट स्ट्रेसेस आर रिचिंग टू द यील्ड स्ट्रेस or to the ultimate stress. Yield in case of ductile material and ultimate in case of brittle material. So it is only happening because of the externally applied load. But when externally applied load is applied, which type of loading we are doing in actual practice? Suppose we are going to consider that we are going to use one rope to pull two-wheeler. एक टू व्हीलर खराब झाले, तिला पुल करून दुसऱ्या टू व्हीलरनं तुम्ही ओढून चाललाय, न्याय लागलाय, तर कुठल्या टाईपचं लोडिंग येणार त्या रोपवर?
Elongation.
Tensile load. Okay, elongation means elongation is result, but load which is applied is tensile load. Okay, in one direction only. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
1 2 mu. 1 2 mu means what you want to say? Ajay, 1-2 mu. What it means, Ajay? Okay, Ajay Sukle. Ajay Sukle, what he want to say, I'm not understanding, but he has written as a 1-2 mu. Means whether that type of loading is occurring, maybe he want to say. But we can say when you are pulling at that time, in one direction, unidirectional force is applied. So deformation has to be take place in unidirectional or in one direction only. Right? When you are pulling this load by means of other vehicle. But while you are taking turn, what is going to happen? Whether it is going to remain unidirectional?
No, sir.
It becomes two-dimensional or two-directional force will be applied. Right? In that case, you are applying resultant force, but force is applied in this direction as well as in this direction also. If horizontally you are going to take x and y axis, it will be applied in x direction and y direction also. It is not remaining case of unidirectional force. That means in simple example also, if you see, we cannot predict that in which direction force is applied and which type of force is responsible for failure. And we know that this world is three-dimensional. So in 3 dimensions, that force may be applied in x direction, y direction, z direction, or it may be combined of all that. And then afterwards, we are going to calculate the failure is occurring because of the principal stress. Then the principal stress which is occurring, it may be sigma 1, sigma 2, and sigma 3. Sigma 1 is for occurring a failure. Am I right? But this failure, if you are comparing with the standard tensile test failure, I'll repeat once again, की प्रॅक्टिकल मध्ये जसं फेल्युअर ऑकर होतंय त्याचं कंपॅरिझन आपण मगाशी जसं स्ट्रेस ट्रेन डायग्राम काढण्यासाठी युनिव्हर्सल मशीनवर UTM म्हणतात त्याला आपण, युनिव्हर्सल टेस्टिंग मशीन, मे बी तुम्ही बघितले असेल. बघितले का नाही ते फक्त सांगा एकदा. हॅलो.
No, sir.
नो, युनिव्हर्सल टेस्टिंग मशीन बघितलेलं नाही. ठीक आहे. I will have one video to the next lecture. Next lecture means we'll have last lecture today itself. I'll show how actually testing take place on universal testing machine. Okay, UTM. मागाशी जे तुम्हाला सगळ्यात पहिलं पिक्चर दाखवलं ते पिक्चर मध्ये जे दोन स्पेसिमन होते, ब्रिटल आणि डक्टाईल, त्यामध्ये काय केलं जातं की आपले 3G चक सारखे चक असतात, लेथ मशीनचे चक असतात तसे, एक वर्टिकल असतो वरच्या साईडला आणि एक खाली असतो, आणि ते दोन जे चेक आहेत ते एकमेकापासून लांब जातात. दॅट मीन्स यू आर अप्लाइंग टेन्साइल लोड. ओके, अँड प्युअर टेन्साइल लोड अप्लाइड or pure compression load is applied. No any other directional or axis force is applied. And in that case, you are going to measure that yield stress or yield loading or ultimate loading. तिथं आपल्याला हे समजतं त्या युनिव्हर्सल टेस्टिंग मशीनवर की yield स्ट्रेस किंवा लोड किती आहे आणि अल्टिमेट लोड किती आहे. फॉर डक्टाईल मटेरियल yield आणि अल्टिमेट दोन इम्पॉर्टंट आहेत, बट फॉर ब्रिटल yield इम्पॉर्टंट आहे. ओके, सो सॉरी, अल्टिमेट इम्पॉर्टंट आहे फॉर ब्रिटल. ओके, तर ते दोन पॉइंट मिळतात आपल्याला. ते स्टँडर्ड, कारण हे मटेरियल प्रॉपर्टी असते. समजा आपण फेरस मटेरियल घेतले, अलॉइड मटेरियल घेतले किंवा नॉन फेरस मटेरियल घेतले किंवा नॉन मेटॅलिक मटेरियल घेतले जसं की वूड वगैरे, तर ह्या सगळ्यांची आपण ती टेस्ट करू शकतो आणि त्याची एक स्पेसिफिक व्हॅल्यू येते. That specific value, when we are applying in practical, how much it is possible to apply that, that comparison is nothing but theories of failure. म्हणजे प्रॅक्टिकलच्या कुठल्याही पॉसिबिलिटीला आपण स्टँडर्ड टेस्ट कंपॅरिझन करून बघणं, त्याला आपण theories of failure म्हणतो. ओके, and that theories of failure are 5 different theories of failure. One is called as principal normal stress theory, second principal shear theory, then principal strain theory. Okay, strain energy theory it is also called as, then principal strain, that is strain yield, that is strain energy theory itself, this, and distortion energy theory. Okay, 1 2 3 4 theories which we are going to see. And in that case, these are the equations which we are going to get at the time of failure directly on this slide. Okay, this slide you can utilize at the time of solving examples, but later on to the next slides what we are going to see that one by one these all theories in details. Okay, and for understanding these theories you should have some knowledge of Morse circle as well as how to calculate the principal stresses. Getting principal plane and principal stresses, that should, knowledge you should have. So next what we are going to see is that how these theories are applicable, or why basically we need that theories. We will take one example for that, and then afterwards we are going to see one by one all theories. Now here we have taken one example that this material or component has loaded by means of 100 megapascal in x direction. Okay, that is sigma 1, first principal stress which has applied or which has generated is 100 megapascal in tensile direction. Okay, and second principal stress which has applied or generated is is 90 megapascal, but in compressive direction. Okay. And in this case, we can say the yield strength of this material is 120 megapascal. That is nothing but when this stress reaches to 120 megapascal, yielding starts for this material. And experience has shown, as well as the data books has given this value, as well as various engineers has come to the conclusion that always shear stress is half of the tensile stress. That is, bearing capacity of tensile stress is double of the shear stress. If you apply load to shear that material, then exactly at the half of that load, failure occurs. Okay, shearing takes place. So this shear stress is half of the tensile stress. Okay, that we have to understand first. Okay, later on how it is and how calculations are supporting to it, that we'll see later on. But for this example, let me tell you one thing here only, that this shear stress is always half of the tensile stress. Okay, exactly it is not half, it is 0.57, but we'll say for the sake of simplicity, as it is a 0.5, that is half of the tensile stress. Okay, now here the principal stresses which are applied. First principal stress is 100 megapascal tensile. Second principal stress is 90 megapascal compressive. Now we know that the shear stress, while we are calculating principal stress, then shear stress for the two-dimensional condition is that first shear stress minus second shear stress divided by 2. Okay, that is the value how we can calculate the shear stress. Okay, so principal stress, just we have to subtract bigger principal stress from the smaller principal stress. Okay, so here we can do that calculation, that 100 minus, in bracket again, minus 90. Why? Because I am taking this 90 as a minus. Can anybody tell me?
Compressive force.
What? I didn't get it.
So compressive force, sir.
Yeah, compressive stress. As we are going to consider tensile as a positive, compressive automatically will become negative. Okay, negative and positive, these are the only signs which we are going to give. But it means that it is in opposite direction of first which we have considered. म्हणजे टेन्साइल जर पॉझिटिव्ह म्हटला तर कॉम्प्रेसिव्ह निगेटिव्ह होतो, कारण त्याच्या अपोजिट आहे म्हणून. ओके, आणि मॅथमॅटिकल कॅल्क्युलेशन साठी आपण हे दोन साइन कन्सिडर करतोय. दॅट्स द व्हॉट मिनिंग ऑफ दॅट साइन. त्यामुळे काय म्हणतोय आपण की minus 90. So it will become minus minus plus, and this shear stress is becoming 100 plus 90 divided by 2, that is 95 megapascal. Okay, so here 95 megapascal, the stress, shear stress which we have calculated or which will be induced as you are for this लोडिंग कंडिशन. म्हणजे हे जे लोडिंग कंडिशन आहेत, ह्या लोडिंग कंडिशनला 95 मेगापास्कल एवढी शियर स्ट्रेस जनरेट होईल याच्यात. आता तुम्ही मला सांगा की आपल्याला अलाउड आहे फक्त 60 मेगापास्कल, पण जनरेट व्हायला लागले 95 मेगापास्कल. वेदर दिस मटेरियल विल गेट फेल और नॉट? हेलो,
Yes, sir.
whether this it is because of this principal stress. आता प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस किती आहे? 100 मेगापास्कल पहिली प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस आणि 90 मेगापास्कल दुसरी प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस आहे. ओके, प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेसच्या हिशोबाने जर बघितलं आपण तर पहिला प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस पण 120 च्या पुढे जात नाही, दुसरा प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस पण 120 च्या पुढे जात नाही. त्यामुळे हे मटेरियल सेफ आहे या दोन प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेसच्या ऍप्लिकेशन मुळे असं आपण म्हणतो. पण ज्यावेळेला आपण शियर स्ट्रेस कॅल्क्युलेट करतो प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस वरून, त्याचा फॉर्म्युला काय आहे आपण एएमई मध्ये बघितलंय, shear stress is equal to first principal stress minus second principal stress divided by 2. And in that case, 100 minus into bracket minus 90, that will become minus minus plus 100 plus 90 divided by 2 is equal to 95. म्हणजे आता ह्या लोडिंग कंडिशनला ह्या जे रेक्टँगल आहे ह्या रेक्टँगल मध्ये शियर स्ट्रेस जे डेव्हलप होणार आहेत प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस मुळे ते आहेत 95 मेगापास्कल. पण आपल्याला इथं आहे की हे मटेरियल फक्त 60 मेगापास्कलच सस्टेन करू शकतं. त्याच्या पुढे 61 झाला की शियर होऊन हे मटेरियल फेल होणार आहे किंवा हा जो रेक्टँगल आहे तो फेल होणार आहे. या केस मध्ये yes somebody Sachin.
Sorry sir, by mistake.
Okay, let it be. Now that in this case आपल्याला प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेसने हे सांगितलं की हे मटेरियल फेल होणार नाही, कारण ह्या दोन्ही पण प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस 120 च्या पुढे जात नाहीत. एक 100 आहे, दुसरा 90 आहे. त्या दोघांना ऍड करायची काही गरज नाही. 100 हा 100 ना अप्लाय झालाय, 90 हा 90 मेगापास्कल ना अप्लाय झालाय, पण ते दोन्ही 120 च्या पुढे नाहीत. त्यामुळे हा जो रेक्टँगल आहे तो सेफ आहे असं एक प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस थिअरी म्हणते. ओके, पण आपल्याला माहिती आहे प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस ज्यावेळेला अप्लाय होतात त्यावेळेला ते शियर मुळे पण फेल्युअर होऊ शकतं. तो शियर स्ट्रेस कसा कॅल्क्युलेट करतो आपण? सिग्मा 1 मायनस सिग्मा 2 म्हणजे टेन्साइल मायनस मायनस कॉम्प्रेसिव्ह. 95 मेगापास्कल अलाउबल आहे 60. मग हे रेक्टँगल हा फेल होईल का नाही हा माझा क्वेश्चन आहे.
I think it deforms, sir.
It will not deform, it will get shear. Deformation will take place, no problem, but this principal stress is saying, or theory is saying that it will again regain its shape. डिफॉर्म तर होणारच आहे, कारण एक कॉम्प्रेसिव्ह आहे y ऍक्सिस ला लावलेला, x ऍक्सिस ला लावलेला हा इलॉंगेशन आहे, त्यामुळे ते डिफॉर्म होईल, पण ते सोडलं की परत रिगेन होईल ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला. असं ही प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस थिअरी म्हणते. कारण कुठलाही प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस हा यील्ड स्ट्रेसच्या आतमध्ये, त्यामुळे तो सेफ रिजन मध्ये म्हणते. पण शियरला काय होईल?
So the fail will.
Rectangle will get shear along this 45 degree because shear will occur in this way. Are you remembering this diagram? This is tau. This is tau. AME मध्ये झाला असेल तुम्हाला प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस मध्ये. So shear will occur आणि ह्या 45 डिग्रीला शियरचं प्लेन असेल. Okay, it means that this theory which is giving explanation about the safety of any material gets fail in case of shear. म्हणजे जी प्रिन्सिपल स्ट्रेस सांगते थिअरी सांगते आपल्याला की तुम्ही सेफ आहे, त्या केस मध्ये शियर फेल्युअर होतोय असं जर डिझायनरनं वापरलं हे. ओके, आणि एक पिन तयार केली, ज्या पिन ट्रॅक्टर आणि ट्रॉलीला जोडायला आपण वापरतोय, त्या पिन मध्ये पुलिंग जर आपण 100 मेगापास्कल लावलं तर त्या पुलिंग मुळे जे काही कॉम्प्रेशन होतंय दोन त्या ड्रायव्हर पूल आणि ट्रॅक्टरच्या हुक मध्ये, त्याचं जर शियर 90 मेगापास्कल असेल, कॉम्प्रेशन 90 मेगापास्कल असेल, तर ते पिन जी वापरणार आहे आपण ट्रॅक्टर आणि ट्रॉली जोडायला, ती पिन शियर होईल. त्या केसमध्ये ऍक्सिडेंट होईल, or that tractor will not be able to pull that trolley, right? It will go to the danger zone. Hence these theories of failure are important or required. म्हणजे आपण जे प्रॅक्टिकल एक्झाम्पल बघणार आहे, सोडवणार आहे, जे प्रॉब्लेम आपण सोडवणार आहे समाजासाठी किंवा डिझाईन प्रॉब्लेम जे सोडवणार आहे, ते कागदावर सोडवून आपले प्रॅक्टिकली इम्प्लिमेंट होत आहेत का नाहीत, अँड हाऊ बेस्ट दे कॅन इम्प्लिमेंट इट. That we have to check, and that's why we need to understand what the theories of failures are, and hence we are going to see these theories of failure, and one by one we'll see which theories of failure is important for which type of material. Okay, so next lecture we are going to see all these things, and these are some practical applications where we need to design and calculate dimensions of all these parts. Suppose for the crankshaft, you are going to calculate what will be the limiting value of stress. It may be shear or it may be tensile, it may be compressive. What will be the limiting value of stress where this crank is going to fail? Because in this case, torsional force is applied as well as bending force is applied. Okay, and centrifugal force, that is again different part, because you are going to use these balancing weights. So this will become case of combined loading. Whereas when you are going to connect turbine with the generator, genset, you are going to use coupling. So here tensile as well as shear, okay, torsional, these type of forces are acting. If you are going to consider nut and bolt arrangement, fastener arrangement, and direct shear is there, tensile load is there, okay, and torsional load is also there. Then is this connecting rod. In case of connecting rod, tensile and compressive forces are generated, but again twisting is going to occur. Whereas in case of this lifting jack, you are going to suffer from this torsional load, thrust, that is compressive or tensile. This become combined loading case. If you take example of this propeller shaft, then direct thrust is there and torsional is forces are acting as well as bending forces are also acting. So these practical examples are there where combined loading occurs, and this combined loading cases should become safe from the failure. They should be away from the failure. The stress which should generate, which they are generated over there, that should be less than the failure stress. That we have to see. Okay, then we are going to see one by one all theories of failure. Before that, we are going to see this slide also, but here now we'll stop and we'll see it to the next lecture. But for next lecture, I will show that how tensile test is carried out on universal testing machine, UTM. Okay, so you just write your roll numbers in comment box, and if you have any question, you are free to ask. After writing your roll numbers, you can leave this meeting and you can join to the next lecture. Everybody has to write their roll numbers. Write your number only once. Sahadev, sorry, Sadashiv Bandgar. Sadashiv Bandgar, can you unmute yourself? Sadashiv Bandgar.